Imagine this. She says something that sounds innocent, even reasonable. You hear it and think, maybe she's confused. Maybe she just needs time. Maybe it's not about me. But what if I told you that those few words are the single most dangerous sentences a man can hear in a relationship? What if I told you that ignoring them, rationalizing them, or trying to convince her otherwise could slowly destroy your value, your confidence, and even your chance at real love? You see, most men have been trained to tolerate uncertainty. They've been taught to chase, to argue, to stay even when the signals are loud and clear. They stay hoping she will realize what she has, hoping her hesitation is temporary, hoping that with enough patience, enough effort, enough proof, she will finally choose them. But here's the truth no one tells you. Desire does not need convincing. Love does not negotiate. Respect does not beg. When someone is truly aligned with you, they will show it clearly, consistently, and unmistakably. Anything less is a warning. Anything less is information you cannot afford to ignore. And here is where most men make the fatal mistake. They stay, they rationalize, they compromise, they sacrifice their peace, all while telling themselves it's patience. But patience without reciprocity is self-betrayal. Every minute you spend trying to earn someone's certainty is a minute you take away from finding someone who is ready to choose you without hesitation. So pay close attention because in this video, I'm going to reveal the exact words, the hidden signals, and the subtle warnings that tell you loud and clear when it's time to leave immediately. If you ignore them, you risk losing more than just time. You risk losing yourself. Watch until the end, because what you learn here will change the way you see relationships, attraction, and your own value forever. Your life, your self-respect, and your future happiness depend on this understanding. Don't blink. Don't scroll. Listen carefully. Let's begin with the most misunderstood sentence in modern dating. I don't know what I want. It sounds honest. It sounds vulnerable. It even sounds mature. And because it sounds emotionally intelligent, most men respect it. They step back slightly. They give her time. They think they're being patient, grounded, supportive. But let's examine this psychologically, not romantically. Human beings are rarely confused about what excites them. They may be confused about logistics. They may be uncertain about timing, but desire itself is not foggy. Desire is directional. When someone truly wants you, their behavior simplifies, not complicates. Their communication becomes clearer, not more abstract. So when she says, I don't know what I want, what she is actually expressing is internal hesitation. And hesitation is information. It is data. It is not something you debate. It is something you interpret. You must understand that uncertainty in attraction is not neutral. It is not sitting in the middle. It leans away. When someone is unsure about you, they are already calculating alternatives. They are already evaluating options. They are already imagining life without committing to you. And this is where most men make the fatal error. They interpret uncertainty as an opportunity to prove themselves. They think clarity can be earned. They think effort can replace instinct. But attraction is not a courtroom. It does not respond to arguments. It responds to conviction. If a woman feels deeply drawn to you, she does not need extended contemplation to decide whether to explore that connection. She might move slowly, yes. She might protect herself, yes. But she does not speak about you with detachment. She does not frame you as a question mark. When you become a question mark in someone's life, you are no longer central. You are optional. And optional men slowly start performing. They over-explain. They overgive. They over-invest. They try to stabilize the ambiguity by becoming more impressive, more available, more accommodating. What they do not realize is that over-functioning in response to uncertainty lowers perceived value, because psychologically, the person who is more certain holds the emotional power. The one who is unsure holds leverage. When she says she doesn't know what she wants, she is unconsciously positioning you in a trial period without commitment. You are being assessed while she remains uncommitted. That dynamic is inherently imbalanced. Now let's go deeper. Uncertainty often appears when attraction is moderate but not compelling. You are good, you are stable, you are safe, but you are not creating urgency in her nervous system. And instead of acknowledging that lack of urgency directly, she expresses it as confusion. Rejection feels harsh. So uncertainty becomes the polite language of low desire. This is difficult to hear, but it is necessary. And when they fear losing you, they seek clarity. They want definition. They want security. They want to lock in the connection before it disappears. If she is comfortable remaining ambiguous, it means she does not fear losing you. And that is the part that should shift something inside you. You cannot build something solid on emotional ambiguity. You cannot create long-term stability from temporary interest. If you attempt to, you will always feel slightly anxious, slightly unchosen, slightly off balance. And here is the philosophical layer. Love requires decision. It is not just feeling, it is choice. A person who refuses to decide is also refusing to commit to the consequences of that choice. They want the benefits of your presence without the responsibility of defining it. That is not partnership, that is consumption. Some men believe patience will convert uncertainty into certainty. But patience only works when there is mutual direction. If two people are moving toward each other, time strengthens the bond. But if one person is standing still while the other is advancing, time increases imbalance. And imbalance eventually turns into resentment. You begin to feel like you are investing more. You begin to question where you stand. You begin to monitor her tone, her responses, her energy. You become hyper-aware, not because you are insecure, but because the situation lacks grounding. Certainty creates peace. Uncertainty creates vigilance. A relationship that starts in vigilance rarely transforms into safety. This is why strong individuals do not argue with ambiguity. They observe it and respond accordingly. They understand that clarity is not something you beg for. It is something you require. If she genuinely does not know what she wants, then the most respectful response is to give her the space to discover it, without you positioning yourself as a placeholder. Because here is the truth. If she later becomes clear and chooses you with conviction, that is powerful. But if she becomes clear and chooses someone else, that would have happened anyway. The only difference is whether you preserved your dignity in the process. Your job is not to convert uncertainty into desire. Your job is to align yourself with certainty. The moment you sense consistent hesitation, you must ask yourself a harder question. Why am I comfortable staying where I am not clearly chosen? That question will reveal more about you than about her. Often men tolerate uncertainty because they fear starting over. They fear losing the investment. They fear being alone. So they negotiate with vagueness. They call it understanding. They call it maturity. But deep down, they feel the imbalance. And that feeling is your internal warning system. You do not punish someone for being unsure. You do not attack them. You do not shame them. You simply recognize that your emotional energy belongs in spaces where it is reciprocated with clarity. When someone says, "I don't know what I want," the mature response is not persuasion, it is composure. You step back. You allow them to figure it out, and you refuse to anchor your future to someone who is undecided about including you in it. Because at the end of the day, attraction that requires convincing is not attraction. And love that begins with hesitation rarely ends with devotion. If you remember nothing else, remember this. The right person may take time to build with you, but they will never take time to decide if they want you. Now let's address another sentence that sounds reasonable, mature, even responsible on the surface. I'm not ready for a relationship. Most men hear that and immediately interpret it as a timing issue. They think maybe she just went through something difficult. Maybe she needs to heal. Maybe if I show her stability, she will feel safe enough to commit. But let's slow this down and examine it without emotion. Human beings do not postpone what they deeply desire. They may delay logistics, but they do not delay emotional alignment when it feels rare and valuable. When someone encounters a person they genuinely fear losing, readiness accelerates, priorities reorganize, space is created. So when she says she is not ready, you must hear what is actually being communicated. It is rarely about relationships in general. It is about this relationship in particular. Because the same person who claims to be emotionally unavailable will suddenly become very available when someone triggers urgency within them. The same person who needs time will find clarity quickly when desire becomes undeniable. Readiness is not a calendar event. It is an emotional decision. And this is where you need to detach from fantasy. When someone says they are not ready, they are telling you that committing to you does not feel compelling enough to override their hesitation. That is not cruelty. That is honesty. But here is the danger. Many men interpret "I'm not ready" as an invitation to demonstrate value. They believe if they prove consistency, prove loyalty, prove patience, she will eventually recognize what she has to present. This mindset turns you into a candidate instead of a choice. You begin auditioning for a position that should have been offered freely. When you stay in that dynamic, you create an imbalance of power. She becomes the evaluator, you become the applicant. And attraction does not grow when one person feels evaluated and the other feels assessed. Attraction thrives in mutual desire, not one-sided pursuit. There is also something deeper happening when someone says they are not ready. Often, they enjoy the emotional benefits of your presence without the responsibility of defining the connection. They want companionship without commitment. They want validation without obligation. And if you accept that arrangement hoping it will evolve, you are entering a silent contract where your expectations are unspoken, but your investment is real. Over time, that becomes resentment. You start noticing inconsistencies. You start questioning where you stand, you stare. Rot wondering why you are giving relationship level energy to someone who refuses relationship level accountability. And the answer is simple. You accepted ambiguity in the hope that it would convert into certainty. But certainty does not grow from tolerance. It grows from alignment. Let me ask you something directly. If a woman believed you were rare, irreplaceable, and aligned with her long-term vision, would she risk losing you by remaining undefined? Would she comfortably say she is not ready, knowing you might walk away? No, because the fear of losing value triggers clarity. When people are truly invested, they secure what matters. Now, this does not mean you attack someone for being honest. If she says she is not ready, respect that statement, but do not reinterpret it to soothe your ego. Do not translate it into almost ready. Do not transform it into with enough time. She will be ready for me. Take it at face value. She is not ready to commit to you. And that truth should not wound your pride. It should sharpen your discernment. You must understand that timing and attraction are often confused. Timing issues exist when two people want the same thing but external circumstances interfere. Emotional unavailability exists when one person does not feel enough internal conviction to commit. Those are not the same. If she is emotionally unavailable, you're available. Litty will not heal her. If she lacks clarity, your consistency will not manufacture it. You cannot carry the emotional weight for two people. And here is the philosophical layer beneath this dynamic. Commitment is not about being ready in theory. It is about being willing in reality. It is about choosing to build despite fear. It is about stepping into responsibility because the connection feels worth it. If someone says they are not ready, they are also saying the connection does not feel urgent enough to take that risk. And you must be honest with yourself. Do you want to be with someone who views commitment to you as a risk rather than an opportunity? Many men stay because they fear that walking away means losing potential. But potential is a projection. It is your imagination filling in gaps that reality has not confirmed. What is real is behavior. If her behavior reflects hesitation, distance, or avoidance of definition, believe the behavior. Words can be gentle, actions are precise. There is also a self-respect component here. When you remain in a situation where someone clearly states they are not ready, you communicate something silently. I am willing to wait indefinitely for a chance. And the longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes to leave. Because now you are not just invested emotionally, you are invested in time, energy, ego. This is how men becco. Me stuck in undefined situations for months, sometimes years, hoping for a shift that never comes. Strong individuals do not pressure others into readiness. They also do not volunteer to be emotional placeholders. If she is not ready, the most powerful response is calm withdrawal. Not to manipulate her into missing you, not to test her feelings, but because you understand that your time is valuable. When you step back, one of two things will happen. Either she will feel the loss and realize she does not want to risk losing you, or she will remain distant. Both outcomes give you clarity, and clarity is freedom. You must shift your mindset from how do I make her ready to why would I stay where readiness is absent. That question recenters your power. The right woman will not need extended persuasion to commit to you. She may move thoughtfully, she may move intentionally, but she will not frame commitment as something she is fundamentally unprepared for. If she sees you as long-term material, she will rise to meet that opportunity. So the next time you hear, I'm not ready for a relationship, do not argue, do not negotiate, do not convince. Respect the statement, accept the reality, and move accordingly, because the person who is right for you will not hesitate to build with you. And the one who hesitates is already telling you everything you need to know. Never wait in a place where you are not fully chosen. Now let us examine a different category of statement. These are not words of confusion. They are not even words of hesitation. They are warnings disguised as humility. You are too good for me. You deserve better. I don't want to hurt you. On the surface, these sound considerate. They sound self-aware. They even sound noble. And because they sound noble, most men misinterpret them as vulnerability rather than disclosure. But psychologically, when someone says this, they are not complimenting you. They are preparing you. Preparation for what? For disappointment. When a person believes they cannot meet your standards, they are communicating a perceived gap. That gap might be emotional maturity. It might be long-term compatibility. It might be desire. but they are clearly telling you that they do not see themselves rising to where you stand. And here is the critical mistake most people make. Instead of believing the statement, they argue with it. They say, no, you are good enough. They say, we can work on it. They say, I do not need better. I just need you. But what they are actually doing in that moment is negotiating downward. When someone tells you they cannot give you what you deserve, and you respond by lowering what you deserve, you are not preserving the relationship. You are shrinking yourself to maintain access. And that shrinkage is felt. Attraction requires admiration. Admiration cannot survive if one person feels they are being overvalued and the other feels they are overcompensating. Let's analyze the deeper psychology behind these disclaimers. When someone says, you deserve better, they are often experiencing internal conflict. They recognize your effort, your stability, your integrity, but internally, they know they are not willing or able to match that energy. Rather than openly stating, I do not feel strongly enough, they soften the message. It is easier to position themselves as inadequate than to say they are not fully invested. This is not necessarily malicious. It is often discomfort avoidance. People avoid direct rejection because it feels harsh, so they wrap rejection in self-criticism. But the outcome is the same. If someone believes you deserve better and you insist that you do not, you are contradicting your own value. Now let us consider the statement, I do not want to hurt you. This is one of the clearest warning signs. People who intend to protect you do not repeatedly place you in situations that cause emotional instability. When someone says they might hurt you, they are acknowledging a pattern within themselves. They are telling you they have either unresolved issues, inconsistent feelings, or incompatible desires. And instead of seeing that as insight, many men see it as a challenge. They think, I will be different. They think, she just has not been treated right before. They think, I can handle it. But love is not about endurance. It is about reciprocity. When someone openly admits that they may not be capable of giving you stability, believe them, not because you doubt their potential, but because you respect your peace. There is also a philosophical element here. We often think love means accepting someone's flaws unconditionally. But acceptance does not mean volunteering for foreseeable pain. If a person tells you they are not aligned with your standards and you ignore that information, you are not being compassionate. You are being self-neglectful. The strongest individuals listen carefully when someone defines themselves. If she says she struggles with commitment, believe her. If she says she tends to lose interest, believe her. If she says she cannot give you what you want, believe her. Not because she is incapable of growth, but because growth is a personal journey. It is not something you supervise. When you stay after a clear warning, you unconsciously send this message, I am willing to accept less than what I require. And once that message is sent, the dynamic shifts permanently this day. Respect begins to erode, boundaries blur, expectations become mismatched. You start hoping she will evolve. She starts relying on your tolerance. And slowly you begin to feel unfulfilled. There is something powerful about taking people at their word. It communicates that you are attentive, grounded, and unwilling to distort reality to preserve comfort. Too many men romanticize potential. They hear, you deserve better, and think she just needs reassurance. They hear, I might hurt you, and think she is scared. Maybe she is scared, but fear does not prevent someone from choosing you when they deeply want you. It motivates them to secure you. When desire is strong, people rise. When desire is moderate, they rationalize. If she truly believed you were irreplaceable, she would not risk losing you by consistently downgrading herself in your eyes. She would work to align. She would seek growth. She would ask for patience with intention, not resignation. The problem is not that she warned you. The problem is when you refuse to hear it. There is dignity in walking away after being given honest information. There is strength in saying, I appreciate your honesty, and I want someone who is fully confident in choosing me. That response does not attack her. It does not shame her. It simply honors your stand. And here is the deeper truth. When someone believes you deserve better, they are revealing how they see themselves in relation to you. If you consistently accept that imbalance, you create a dynamic where one person feels inferior and the other feels compensatory. That dynamic rarely sustains attraction. Equality in relationships is not about income or status. It is about perceived value alignment. If she perceives a gap and you deny it, tension forms. The mature response is not to convince her she is enough. It is to find someone who already believes they are aligned with you, because the right person will not speak about themselves as a downgrade to your life. They will speak about building with you as an upgrade for both of you. So when you hear those warning phrases, do not argue, do not soothe, do not minimize, listen. People reveal their capacity long before they reveal their behavior. And if someone tells you they cannot meet your standard, the strongest thing you can do is protect that standard. Because in the end, ignoring a warning does not make it disappear. It only makes the lesson more painful later. When someone shows you their limits, believe them. Then choose yourself. Now let us confront the part that most people avoid. It is not just what she says that determines the outcome. It is what you tolerate after she says it. This is where power quietly shifts. The moment a woman expresses uncertainty, unreadiness, or even a subtle warning about her inability to meet your standards, a decision is placed in your hands, and what you do next determines how you will be perceived from that point forward. If you stay without clarity, if you continue investing at the same emotional level after being downgraded to maybe you are teaching her how to treat you, that is not emotional. That is psychological. Human beings calibrate their behavior based on what is accepted. If you accept vagueness, vagueness becomes the norm. If you accept inconsistency, inconsistency becomes the pattern. If you accept being optional, you will be treated as optional. This is not cruelty. It is reinforcement. Every time you remain in a dynamic where you are not clearly chosen, you lower the perceived cost of losing you. And when the cost of losing you is low, urgency disappears. Attraction thrives where there is value. Value increases when access is meaningful, not automatic. When you stay after she has expressed hesitation, you communicate something without words. You communicate that your presence is unconditional regardless of how little clarity you receive. You communicate that you will remain even when you are not fully wanted, and that changes the dynamic. It is important to understand that respect and attraction are intertwined. They are not separate categories. When someone sees that you compromise your own standards to maintain access to them, admiration decreases. And when admiration decreases, desire follows. Many men believe that staying proves loyalty, but loyalty without reciprocity becomes self-sacrifice, and self-sacrifice, when unearned, creates imbalance. You begin to overextend, you invest more time, you offer more reassurance, you give more emotional labor, and you tell yourself you are being patient. You start watching for signs, you start measuring effort, you start feeling anxious about tone and response time. You start sensing that you are not standing on equal ground. That internal tension is the cost of staying where you are not fully valued. Let us go deeper. When someone senses that you are unwilling to walk away, they unconsciously relax their effort. Not because they are malicious, but because security without commitment reduces motivation. Scarcity increases appreciation. Certainty without effort reduces it. If she knows you will remain regardless of how undefined the relationship is, there is no incentive to clarify it. And this is where resentment quietly grows. You will not express it immediately. You will tell yourself to be understanding, but over time, the imbalance will surface. You will feel like you are giving relationship level energy to someone who refuses relationship level responsibility. That feeling is not insecurity. It is misalignment. It lowers your internal self-respect. Even if you do not admit it consciously, you know when you are accepting less than what you originally required. And self-respect is the foundation of confidence. The more you compromise your own boundaries to keep someone, the more fragile your confidence becomes. You begin to depend on their validation to feel secure because you have already weakened your own position. Now imagine the opposite scenario. Imagine she expresses uncertainty and you calmly respond with clarity. You say, I respect your honesty. I want something intentional. If that is not where you are, I will step back. There is no anger, no drama, no ultimatums, just alignment. In that moment, you communicate strength. You communicate that your standards are not negotiable. You communicate that your time and energy are valuable, and whether she steps up or steps away, your position remains intact. Power in relationships does not come from dominance, it comes from discipline. The discipline to leave when the situation no longer aligns with your values. Most men fear that walking away will make them look insecure or impatient, but the opposite is true. Walking away from ambiguity signals emotional maturity. It shows that you do not require constant validation to function. It shows that you understand your worth independently of her approval. When you stay in a downgraded position, you slowly train her to see you as emotionally dependent. When you leave calmly, you remind her that you are a choice, not a guarantee. And here is the paradox. The more willing you are to walk away, the more attractive you become. Not because you are playing games, but because you are grounded in self-respect. There is also a long-term consequence to consider. Relationships built on tolerated ambiguity rarely evolve into stable commitment. Even if clarity eventually comes, the memory of imbalance remains. You will always remember that you had to convince someone to choose you. That memory erodes intimacy. True intimacy is built when both people feel equally chosen, equally invested, equally committed. It cannot thrive where one person had to shrink to remain. You must ask yourself a difficult question. Are you staying because the connection is healthy or because you are afraid to start over? 5. The fear often disguises itself as hope, but hope without evidence is attachment to fantasy. The moment she expresses doubt about you, you have a choice. You can argue with it, ignore it, or accept it. Only one of those options preserves your dignity. Strong individuals do not punish others for uncertainty. They simply remove themselves from it. Because at the end of the day, you cannot force someone to see your value, but you can refuse to discount it. And here is the truth you must internalize. The longer you stay where you are, not fully chosen, the harder it becomes to be fully chosen later. Respect yourself enough to leave when the warning signs appear, because the moment you tolerate less than you deserve, you teach the world that less is enough, and it is not. Now let's talk about the most misunderstood and most powerful action a man can take. walking away. This is not about anger. This is not about pride. This is not about punishment. Walking away is clarity in motion. It is the conscious decision to honor your standards, your value, and your time. And yet, so many men avoid it because it is uncomfortable, because it forces them to confront the reality that someone they care about is not aligned with them. Walking away requires courage because it is counterintuitive. Society tells us to persist, to fight for what we want, to endure uncertainty for the hope of eventual connection. But attraction, desire, and respect do not grow from endurance. They grow from alignment, they grow from clarity, they grow from the understanding that emotional energy is finite and must be directed where it is reciprocated. When someone has expressed hesitation, unavailability, or an inability to meet your standards, staying in that space is not patience. It is compromise. It is lowering your expectations to fit someone else's limitations. It is telling yourself that the potential of what could be is more important than the reality of what is. And the truth is, potential is a fantasy. Reality is tangible, measurable, and in your control. Walking away communicates power because it is action that aligns with self-respect. It says without words, I know my value. I will not settle. I will not be optional. I will not anchor myself in someone else's uncertainty. There is no manipulation in this action. There is no anger. There is simply alignment. And alignment is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to individuals who are grounded in clarity because that clarity is rare. Most men fear that leaving will mean loss. They fear that if they step away, the person might never return. But consider this. Is it loss if you are leaving someone who does not fully choose you, or is it liberation? Liberation from emotional ambiguity. Liberation from compromise, liberation from a slow erosion of self-worth. When you step away from uncertainty, you are stepping into freedom, the freedom to invest in people who recognize your value without hesitation. There is also a psychological truth that cannot be ignored. Humans respond to consequence. When someone experiences the real possibility of loss, clarity often emerges. When you demonstrate that your presence is not guaranteed, you create a natural pressure for alignment. But let me be clear, this is not about testing anyone. It is about living in integrity. You do not leave to make her chase you. You leave to honor your own standard of self-respect. The outcome, whether she chooses to step up or not, becomes secondary to your alignment with yourself. Walking away also prevents the slow poisoning of emotional energy. When you remain where you are not fully chosen, tension builds silently. It begins with small questions. Did I do enough? Did I say the wrong thing? Am I giving too much? Over time, these questions compound. They create doubt, anxiety, and resentment. The very connection you hoped to strengthen becomes a source of emotional depletion. Walking away halts that process before it starts. It preserves your inner peace. Philosophically, walking away embodies a profound understanding of human relationships. You cannot control desire. You cannot manufacture love. You cannot force alignment. You can only control your own actions, your own boundaries, and your own standards. When you act from that place of self-sovereignty, you attract people who are capable of meeting you there. You stop settling for less and start living in alignment with what you truly deserve. Some men worry that walking away is a permanent action. They fear that leaving closes doors that might have opened later. But life does not reward hesitation. Life rewards decisiveness. Life rewards those who honor their own worth in real time. The right person, the person whose desire and readiness align with yours, will appear. And when they do, your clarity ensures that you are prepared to recognize them and engage without compromise. There is also a subtle but crucial lesson here. Walking away cultivates self respect in ways that persuasion, negotiation, or waiting never can. When you leave a situation where you are not fully valued, you reinforce a deep internal truth. Your presence is not up for debate. Your standards are not optional. Your worth is not negotiable. This self respect radiates outward. It is felt by others. It is magnetic. It attracts people who operate from a place of clarity and alignment. It is important to remember that leaving is not about emotional reactivity. It is not an act of revenge or manipulation. It is a deliberate choice grounded in awareness and integrity. You step away not because you are hurt, but because you are wise. You step away not because of anger, but because of discernment. You step away not because you lack love, but because you understand that true love cannot flourish in uncertainty, hesitation, or inconsistency. And here is the final layer of insight. The man who walks away first preserves his power. He does not negotiate from a position of insecurity. He does not bend to fit someone else's limitations. He does not sacrifice his future for someone else's ambivalence. He moves with purpose, knowing that every step away from what is not aligned is a step toward what is. Walking away is not an end, it is a beginning, the beginning of relationships defined by clarity, mutual respect, and genuine desire. So the next time you encounter hesitation, uncertainty, or disclaimers disguised as humility, remember this: the most powerful action is not persistence. The most powerful action is discernment. The most powerful action is leaving, not with anger, not with drama, but with quiet confidence. Walk away, and you will find that life has a way of aligning you with those who are ready, willing, and capable of meeting you where you stand. Because at the end of the day, the man who understands his value never negotiates with uncertainty. He steps away, preserves his dignity, and opens the door for the right person to walk through. And that is where true power, true attraction, and true love begin.